Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Brave Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Jena Rodriguez, and I'm your transformational mentor and business strategist, helping you grow not only your businesses, but also the life that you live. And I bring this show to you to help you get your brave on and hear from other people, not just my brave story, but other people that have done it before you. And it's like, if we can do it, you can do it. And that's the idea. And of course, we have another amazing guest, Dr. Matt Mannino. And hello, welcome.
Hey, Jenna, good to be here.
Yeah, so excited to have you here. We've been talking for probably 10 minutes before the show starts, and I'm like, oh gosh, we need to hit record. We're getting some good stuff here. And so yeah, I'm super excited to introduce you to my community and audience as well. And so if you could just share with everyone what you do in the world, what kind of work you do, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, well, thanks for this opportunity. Look forward to our time together and connecting with your community and back and forth. You know, I think the best way to sort of say what I do, it's personal transformation with sort of a neuroscience base. I draw on my chiropractic training. The doctor thing is my chiropractic license. And, you know, real early on, it was my challenge, some of the things that I was dealing with out of school, 80,000 in debt, and, you know, thoughts of fear and worry. Do I have what it takes to actually do this thing and grow a business and handle this practice? And my experience was more of, okay, I needed to find where I was grounded and find the place that, you know, I had confidence in. And they really sort of drilled in our minds in school this thing called innate intelligence. And it's basically the wisdom of the body to heal and repair way past your intellectual capacity to even understand it. You know, it's just like, you don't have to think about digesting your food or, you know, keeping your lungs going. And that's really the shift sort of that I had, was that, yeah, I'm the doctor thing, but I'm not doing any of the healing. You know, there's principles and power way beyond me that's in play. And I just sort of took that. I'm like, well, if that power is accessible for health, maybe I can tap into it for wealth and happiness and joy and everything else, right? And so that was sort of my path and my journey. And within 3 years, completely debt-free, 5 years, built one of the largest practices on the planet, and just keep playing with these principles. And it's been, you know, an exciting journey since then.
Yeah, amazing. And I want to dive into that a little deeper, obviously, with the brave and you know, because I clearly started out in, turbulent upbringing, and, you know, in that victim mindset, and woe is me, and what am I going to do? And, you know, nothing's working, and blah, blah, blah. Right. And there had to be a shift in our mind and our way of looking at life. Do you recall what that kind of moment was, or where it all began, the pivot?
Yeah, and you know, it's such a powerful point and a really important shift that has to be taken. And I sort of define it as the human nature versus our higher nature. The human nature, that's its job. That's the easy default state, to go victim and you know, blame situation and circumstance as to the pain and the fear and everything that we're dealing with. So that's real easy. That doesn't take any decision or choice or willpower to do. We just drop into that, right?
Autopilot.
Yeah, autopilot mode. The shift into higher nature is a matter of choice and decision and willpower. That's when we get to activate it. And honestly, for me, it was tormented with these thoughts of fear and worry and stress, and you know, I call it the mind prison. You know, and am I gonna, you know, let my mind get the best of me, or am I gonna take charge of it? And the revelation, or my breakthrough awareness, was, hey, you know, my mind, my brain, this thing that's causing all these thoughts is just an organ. It's like my liver or my kidney or my heart. It has a job, right? And the job of my brain and my mind is to think. And when it thinks things, that's sort of doing its job. And I get a choice in that space, in that moment, to choose to go become my thought and react to that thought and act as if I'm the thought, or I get to observe it and become aware of it and notice the functioning of this organ called my brain.
Right.
And that was sort of my shift. It's like, okay, you just thought this. Thanks for sharing, but I'm going to focus on, taking care of people and maximizing my potential. And, how can I grow this practice that's fun and exciting, versus, oh, what if I don't, or what, right? So that was my big shift, really acknowledging and accepting this idea that it's one thing to have a thought, it's another thing to become a thought. And from there, it's just an ongoing practice, if you will, or getting good at how good can I, be aware of thoughts and work with them and direct them. And so that was sort of the shift for me.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, for me as well. And of course, I started feeding myself a lot of knowledge and reading books and studying, Tony Robbins back when I was 19. Like he was that that person that kind of spearheaded things. And I think it's interesting because I look back and I go, information was great. Obviously, it started opening my awareness. But I think what you just said is what people really need to get is that it's a practice. It's actually something you have to practice, not just like knowledge is insufficient, right? Reading the book, great. It goes in one ear and out the other. And then the ego, or what you call the human nature, right? I call it the ego mind. Will shut that crap down. I don't want to go there. I don't want to look at myself, right? I don't want to deal with, I don't want to be observer. I just want to be on autopilot because it's way easier, like you said.
Exactly.
Resistance, yeah. And so I think that's a point to anchor, is that we've got to practice this stuff every single minute, every single day. And so I love the fact that you have the neuroscience and you can add knowledge to me because you do have that doctor background. So bridge the gap between those conversations for us. Like, what is it inside of the neuroscience and the things that as being, from the doctor standpoint and that training, to what you said earlier, the principles, like kind of bridge that gap for us.
Yeah. So, and that's a big part of the work that I do is bringing those two worlds together, science and spirit. The science side of things is sort of a grounding. It's a basis for us because we all have a brain, we all have a nervous system. And so these things function pretty much the same. I mean, there's difference between a lot of research on the male brain and female brain, but we still all have frontal lobes and occipital, right? And so it's for me, it's a grounding space. This is where we start. This is what we know for sure that can be tested and proven. However, it serves as a container for that, our true essence or our identity and all these intangible things that makes us unique and powerful and special, and really connects with our purpose and our destiny and these higher things. The difference is, again, these natures, human nature, number one, could care less about purpose and destiny and your happiness and it's only concerned about your survival. Eat, drink, fornicate, sleep, that's it, right?
Exactly.
But higher nature is about, again, growth and transformation and what is behind this podcast and your drive and my drive.
Yes.
However, that's the part that we need to, my journey is to allow these two natures to dance and coexist. Because as long as I have a body and breath in my lungs, my human nature is dominant in keeping me safe. And it does that by keeping me the same, which goes in direct opposition to my higher nature, which is about growth, transformation, and change, right? So how do we balance those two things? And essentially that's where the neuroscience for me comes in, because I want to honor, I want to acknowledge and respect the purpose or role of my nervous system, which is to keep me safe. Thank you. That's a good thing. But what I have found happens a lot with personal development, which really, I think, throws people off, or at least and I mean, this stuff is hard enough, growing and transforming, let alone having I'm going to call it's a wrong map to work off of. when they say things like you have a limiting belief or you have self-sabotaging mechanisms. Man, your nervous system is not about sabotage. It's not about limitations. It's about safety. Huh. Okay, if that's its operating mode, then how can I respect that and work with that and help me use that to create change and transformation?
Yeah.
So essentially the methods that I've developed deals with, okay, when I'm in the automatic pilot mode, this victim mode, I'm in the back part of the brain, or what we call the reptilian brain, which is all about, it's the sort of the stress response, right?
Yes, correct.
And what's that? The fight or flight. Exactly. But the key is the fight or flight mechanism cannot distinguish or make a determination whether someone's got a knife to my throat or my identity just been threatened. I may lose that deal, or I may fail in business, or she might say no, right?
Right.
So the nervous system, it's the exact same thing. I'm going to die either physically, or I could potentially die physically or psychologically, right?
Yeah.
So that kicks in my reptilian brain, says run, fight, something, and I can't grow in that mode. I'm defending in that mode. That's right? So the techniques and the work that we do says, well, first you got to acknowledge, my reptilian brain has been triggered. It is stressed out, not me. That's the other thing. People say, I'm stressed, I'm worried, I'm afraid. No, you're not. Your brain is. Yeah. There's a big difference between you and your brain. That's like saying, when you're exercising and your heart starts beating, it's like saying, I'm beating. No, you're not. Your heart is. Right? So seeing the distinction and difference between, there's a part of you that's stressed versus you're stressed. Because really in that moment, it needs your higher nature to be engaged to help it and let it know, if she says no, you're okay. If the business crashes, you're still going to be alive, right? Yeah. But it doesn't know that. It's learned in earlier childhood stuff that this is a threatening, right? And so the first part is sort of switching that part of the brain off. And there's techniques and processes to do that, right, and allow us to move, what I'm going to say, from back to front, because essentially this is where we want to be. This is the sweet spot, the frontal lobe or prefrontal cortex, where we can be creative, where we can be open, where all our ability to adapt to stress or failure or whatever occurs in that part of the brain, not back here, right? Yeah. So the methods and the processes allow people to, first, what part of the brain am I in? And do I need to turn it on or off, right? So here again is that we're trying to bring those two worlds together of understanding the neuroscience. And it's just, again, if I'm running, my heart better start beating fast. Yeah. If for some reason there's a perceived threat, then I better defend myself. Right. Just the psychological part of it has learned, and it might not be accurate. Or let's say at one point in time, that defense mode was necessary for your survival. It was necessary for you to make an association of what just happened to you and what it means to you. And whatever came up in that moment was needed. The challenge is it was formed at let's say, an emotional time. There was no frontal lobe involved in that decision. And again, we were 5 years old or 6 years old. The problem is that association remains until we change it. That's the big part with personal development, is it's called conditioning or programming. Once that subconscious has been programmed or associated, that ain't going away. Again, because why? It thinks, and this is the really tricky part, it's almost the paradox, it thinks if you don't respond this way with fear and worry and sadness and stress, you're going to die. That's right. You know what I'm saying?
Black or white. It's a high extreme, no in between.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. So it's doing its job. Survival, safety. It just has a skewed, maybe not real accurate, association to what is truly possible in that moment. Right. What is your full potential in that moment? Yes. And even on a deeper level, that thing that you or your nervous system has decided is stressful for you is your calling.
Yeah.
That's exactly where you need to be in your life, right? Because
Yeah, for sure.
that thing is what's going to cause growth. If someone else is exposed to that exact same situation and there's no response, right? There's no meaning there.
Yeah.
Do you follow what I'm saying?
I'm 100% with you. I'm
Yeah.
saying everybody else is.
Yeah. So the human nature runs from that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's stressful and it takes me out. It makes me upset. It's unpleasant and uncomfortable. Higher nature says, that's your purpose. That's where you need
go
to be.
there. Yeah, lean in. Yeah.
We just need to access more of our truth, more of our gifts, strengths, and talents in that moment. And that's really, to me, that's personal growth. That's transformation. Because when I can engage in that same situation or event,
right,
and respond, right, effectively and productively, and I'm excited about it, that's the proof in the change. Yeah.
Yeah, love. Yeah, I call the association, as you call it, like you're mentioning association or the meaning or whatever we give so early on. I call it the belief loop. And it's just because beliefs are made up. And so it keeps looping until you stop, put something in the middle of that loop and change the programming. But I completely get that. And thank goodness, that awareness. I mean, I'm grateful that I've been able to do I've worked with tremendous mentors and knowledge. And I think, I went from the knowledge, the books and the tapes.
Right. Are we dating ourselves with tapes? 8 tracks, yeah.
To being in like a mentorship, and that's what, you and me both, we're there to actually help people stay accountable to their true self, right? Their higher nature. And I call it the true north, right? So we just have our own dialogue.
Yeah.
It's great. It's so good because I think we need more of us on this planet to really eradicate the problem, right? Eradicate the fear and eradicate, I call it unrealized human potential. Like that's kind of my whole stand.
Yeah.
And if I can just be 1 ounce, worthy of that, then, I've done my job. But I want to go back and just a thought came to me and I was like, what do you say about depression?
Depression. Great question. Yeah. And it's almost what I see is the emotional states are energetic states, and the stronger it is, the deeper, or let's say more, I'm going to say more confused the subconscious mind is, because it doesn't make determinations unless there is threat. Like I said, 10 people can be exposed to the exact same event. I mean, I've worked with thousands of students in my workshops, and the most revealing things is when there's like a family, all 5 kids were exposed to whatever stress mom or dad were doing and all that sort of thing. And all 5 of them had different responses. This one, it was like, whatever. This one was the wound that has taken them out of life. Yes. This other one was like no energy at all. And so the threat is perceived based on, again, identity and gifts and talents and abilities. Right. And the more potential threat to that is, the deeper the wound. Yeah. So it's not necessarily the emotion, even though emotions all reflect some, again, there's an energetic state to it. I look more at the intensity of it, because we all can sort of go into a little depression or fear or worry. Yeah. But if it's 0 to 10, you deal with a 10 depression like all the time, then that is a greater cry for help from the subconscious mind, essentially saying you are really far away from your true north. You are really off track. It's just, again, the same wisdom in the nervous system that lets us know when something is diseased or dysfunction in the body. We have pain.
Yes.
The more severe pain, the more problem there is. So the louder the cry for help. And so in that space, we begin to look at, because what I have found too, based on identity and based on your true essence, we tend to have we tend to go towards a depression, or tend to go towards fear, or tend to go towards sadness.
Right.
So even the emotional state that was chosen in that moment, right? Because each kid has a different emotion around the exact same thing. So it really had nothing, and that's the other thing I see with personal development. They like, well, you have to forgive your mom or your dad. Your nervous system who caused or created that belief doesn't know who mom or dad is, so forgiving them is a waste of time, right? You have to look at, what did this mean to me?
That's right.
What did it threaten? What part of my gift, strength, my truth was threatened in that moment? That's the part that needs help, right? So I'm hoping that that's answering your question. And it's like the real, because the subconscious doesn't know these labels or tags in names of emotions, but it knows intensity, it knows frequency, and that's really what we want to look at. How strong is this thing? How often do I experience this thing? And the third component, see, we have to sort of, again, subconscious, it's beneath or below, or let's say outside of the conscious, which is intellectual and knowledgeable. Subconscious doesn't work like that, but it gives us clues that we have to sort of decode and decipher. And those main clues are, again, intensity of emotion, frequency of emotion, and the meanings. What does this mean about me? And when you're, as you said before, it was perfect. When we go victim, that's causing my external environment. That's saying you caused this.
That's right.
That's impossible.
It's impossible.
The only thing that can cause my emotion is if my nervous system is still threatened. So it becomes, thank you for letting me know I got some work to do now. Go away. Now I can talk to my nervous system. I've seen you before. You're pretty strong. What are you trying to tell me?
Yeah.
Right?
I love it. Yeah. And I bring that up because obviously I have my own experience in coming out of the hardships that I came through, right, and observed and made what I meaned about it. Is that is in my early 20s, I was very quickly called clinically depressed and put on a pill.
Got it.
I mean, I was like, this doesn't feel right. You know, like it still didn't feel right. It's my true north was like, it's not actually the solution. And yet, you know, I know that that's the kind of the way of the world. There's a lot of that going on. I'm curious, like, you know, certainly you've got the doctor background, you've got the universal laws and, you know, that spirit and science. And it's just wondering what your take or like what your advice would be to someone that says, I'm depressed. Right. Again, not I'm, but
my nervous system. Beautiful.
System.
Great notice. Yeah. My nervous system struggles with depression. It needs some help.
Yeah. It's like separate it. Yeah.
No. And certainly there, I mean, we can even go deeper, realizing, sometimes there are neurochemical imbalances. If the cells don't create enough epinephrine or dopamine that are our, you know, feel good or neurotransmitters, or even epigenetics, dealing with generational curses and other things, that this dynamic is inherited. So there may not be necessarily a traumatic childhood incident that triggered this. We are born with it. The good thing is, through neuroplasticity, once the research shows, just by observing, that's why I you know, beat myself, or you know, it's just like I say it over and over again. Just by observing, the research shows that your nervous system is like, you just observe that thought versus bought into the thought. That changes the neurochemistry of the brain. And through neuroplasticity, it's just like, in that moment, you had to form a new neural pathway versus the habitual one that says, I'm depressed. Or this is the way I'm supposed to react when someone does this or says this about me, or I see this, whatever, right? It's all a habit. And simply to notice that is the first step of beginning to change. And then even better, saying, how do I want to feel in this moment? What would be a more desirable moment? Just to think about what that might feel like is enough.
Yeah.
Even though, because if this depression is so ingrained, I can't tell you how many people I work with, I don't know what it feels like to be happy. I have no idea what love is. I've never felt worthy. I get it. There's nothing to draw from to try and get something. But again, just think about it. Just think about the possibility of maybe having a feeling of
You've seen
love.
a movie, right? Watch this. You've seen a movie.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Somebody else in
Something.
love.
And all of a sudden the brain is like squirrel. It's like, what? Love? Versus, and that's the cool thing.
Yeah.
It's like a 2-year-old kid, very low attention span.
Yes.
And we have to just continually, once we observe it, then we've created a little gap. We've like, right? And then we can insert
Pause.
pause. Yeah. What's different? What might be better? And it just builds,
Yeah.
right?
And it's a muscle. I definitely believe it's a muscle we have to use over and over and practice and get help when we need to build the muscle, just like a personal trainer or what have you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So for sure. Well, Scott, I love this conversation and I could keep going and going. However, I want to just dive back into your personal journey for a moment. And just to connect the audience to, obviously you've lived this, you've practiced this. I guess the way I ask it is, what has been your bravest moment thus far?
Yeah. And I think, going back to the scenario, $80,000 in debt after chiropractic school, and the idea, I had a license, I had a degree, but really no training in business and no training in how do I grow a business and marketing and brand, and none of that. It's just like, there you go, you got your degree and you're legal, but yeah. And it was on, my higher nature said, hey, there's going to be another chiropractic office. This is, I'm looking at all these offices, and, human nature says competition and, all this stuff. Higher nature says, yeah, like if someone is, no one's, I have what it takes, and, no one else is more trained. We're all have the same skills and abilities. So why not me? That was sort of my mindset. And to begin to, I think early on, it was simply applying, and there was definitely some fear motivation. And fear, once again, I'll take that over apathy, and I don't care, because there's some drive, there's some motivation. But that's sort of what I was saying initially, is like, that got me going. But then I realized, but if I continue, if fear is the energetic background behind growing my business, that's not very fun. That's not very pleasant. Do I really want to, fear being why I'm doing this versus, pleasure, pain and pleasure sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's then the shift was seeing those thoughts, as I had mentioned, and then getting connected to my passion. What was really the thing that motivated me? If everything I'm saying is true, and my subconscious, what we know governs 95% of everything we think, say, and do throughout the day, if that's true, if that's really running the ship, but it has no idea what chiropractic is, what my patients are, what money is, none of that, then what's it motivated to do, right? That's not motivating it, because it doesn't know what that is. My conscious mind, that's where a lot of, I think, entrepreneurs of business owners get off track. Mm-hmm. They think the goal, the outcome, is the thing that drives them. No, that's the outcome, that's reward. Motivation comes much deeper, and it comes with, again, the meaning. And what I just sort of was self-reflection in that, what is really cool for me. And what I got connected was with this idea that I really loved when patients came in and said, I was told I got to be on this drug the rest of my life, or I got to have this surgery or I'll die. The medical model was, it wasn't a very, pleasant prognosis.
Right.
And we helped them. We were able to get them off those drugs, prevent the surgery, and create a miracle in their body. I didn't, was it really a miracle, or was the body just doing what it was designed to do? That's when I talk about healing. Right. And again, that's physical or emotional, right? Yes. It's the same work. We're releasing that power from within to heal.
Yeah.
The mind or the body makes no difference. And so I connected with this theme, or this energy of hope. That's really what excited me. I was giving them hope that they didn't have to live on this drug, that they didn't, have to rely on the surgery or whatever else. And so that's really what shifted my experience in my office. Yeah, I was growing, I was making money, I was successful. But when it really doubled and tripled and took off is when I got connected with that meaning. What was the thing that was really exciting and meaningful for me, right? It was giving them hope. And that's true today. Now I'm just giving people hope that you don't have to live with depression. Fear is powerful. Worry and anxiety and all these things are just symptoms that you're on course, man. You're on the right track.
Yes.
If those emotions come up, we just need to, what we call, transmute that energy into growth versus, decay.
Yeah, dying. Yeah, I love that. It's funny because I've always wondered, I've done that work for myself. Like, what is the kind of the why, the meaning?
Yeah, the why.
That I'm doing anything I do, and the common thread has been not only helping people, get their brave on, but what's really happening is transformation. Like it's transforming what is so, what they perceive as so, and being able to see it differently and therefore have a different result, and it's funny because in my 20s I was a makeup artist, so even back then I was connected to the transformation.
There
not
we go.
just makeup.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think what's important is that we don't focus so much on the vehicle, that we deliver our why and our purpose and our passion, because those vehicles will change over time.
Absolutely. You're right.
And yet, so enjoy the journey, enjoy the vehicle. Like I trade my car in every couple of years. So not just that you can trade your business in, but I'm just saying, like, it changes and you change with it. And so that's what's exciting to see, is like your message of hope doesn't matter what vehicle, that's who you are. And
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, that's the package. The vehicle, the job, the career becomes the package, which also unfortunately helps or happens a lot. I see people identify with the job, or I'm this or I'm that. No, you're not. It's a vehicle. That's a big distinction, and I hope your people get that one. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, me too. we'll plant the seed today that there is. So yeah, this has been amazing. I really appreciate your transparency and, of course, your amazing knowledge and hope for everyone. Before we kind of close out, I would love for people to connect with you. What is the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. The best way is our website, and that's quantumemergence.com, quantumemergence, one word.com. And once they check our site out, there's a little opt-in. We've got some free ebooks, we have some videos, and we also offer some strategy sessions with people, not sure where to start. We love to connect and talk with people. So I have coaches and trainers ready to meet and greet if needed. But yeah, quantumemergence.com is the best.
Great. And we'll put that in the show notes as well, so people can just click and go. And I always like to wrap up the show with this question: is if this was your very last episode, very last podcast, very last speaking opportunity, never to be seen again, Dr. Matt. Feel it, right? Feel it. Yeah. What is the message you would want the world to know?
Man, the message is knowing that they were created for a purpose, and everything they would ever want, need, and desire is already within them. Find it from within and release it versus seeking it outside of themselves.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. It's not external. I love it.
Right.
I love it. Thank you for that final note. And I really appreciate your time and having you here. So thank you.
Love being here.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. If you guys got value out of this, for those of you listening or watching, please let us know. Give us a review. We're messengers in the world here, but we would love to know that it's being received. So let us know that. And in the meantime, let's go get our brave on. Talk to you next time.